All right, we're going to slowly see people trickling in. I'm sure everybody's coming from a lot of different sessions. I can see the numbers slowly go up. I'm sure you can see that too, Liz. Hi,
Mm-hmm.
everyone. My name is Snigdha. And like all of you here, I am also an educator. I have been teaching in schools and working with teachers for over 8 years now. Um, I would love to actually know where all of you are joining from. So while we give everybody a few more seconds to come in and join our session, please write your name and where you're joining us from in the chat and make sure you're responding to all panelists and attendees. And Liz and I would be happy to say hi. All right. I think everybody's still asleep. I see somebody's raised their hands. We will not be using the raise your hand feature, unfortunately, during this webinar, and I will get to all of those announcements in a second. Hi, Rosalina from Mexico. Hi, Berku. I hope I said that right, from Istanbul. Hi, Joyce from New Zealand. We have Janet joining us from Virginia Beach. We have Katina from the Bahamas, Sheila from Jakarta. It's always amazing. We have US, Munich. It's great to see such a global audience, Liz. This is what gets me very, very excited to see a mix of familiar and new names. Unfortunately, we cannot see our faces, but names are definitely names that we identify and we recognize by now. So welcome everybody to the Learning Jam. We're very excited to have you here. Liz, if you could go to the next slide. So if you've attended any sessions in the Learning Jam, you would know this by now, but if you're new, I just want to quickly talk about Toddle and introduce Toddle to all of you. Toddle is a PYP and an IBMYP collaboration platform. And as teachers, we just do so many different things in our days. We wear so many different hats, and Toddle helps you do everything that you need to do, whether it's curriculum planning or portfolios or assessments or family communication, even IB evaluation and authorization or remote learning. You can do all of this in Toddle in a beautiful, intuitive interface. Let's go to the next slide, please. You'll have to click twice because this is a video, and I'm just going to go ahead and talk over this. So Toddle was created by educators, and we are therefore extremely passionate about professional development and creating opportunities for authentic collaboration. To this end, we host events like the Learning Jam. We also have an exclusive library of free resources, blogs, and webinars, which is what I work on at Toddle, which is called Toddle Learn. And we have Toddle Community. So if you are an IBPYP teacher, you can join Toddle Community and you'll have access to a lot of wonderful unit plans and lesson plans created by PYP schools from around the world. And so the Learning Jam, which is what we are attending today, is again a community event, which is our small effort in creating a space where we can all share ideas, best practices, and strategies to make 2021 a fun and engaging year for all of you, whether it's remote or in person. All right, I have a few quick logistical and housekeeping announcements on the next slide. All right, so since this is a Zoom webinar, Liz and I are not able to see you or hear you. So if you have any questions, any things you want to share with us, we love to hear your thoughts, your ideas. Please do that using chat. Don't forget to respond to all panelists and attendees. At different points, Liz will ask you to pause and reflect. So again, use the chat feature to do that. If you have any questions, please use the QA box to write your questions. That's just to make sure that we don't miss out on any questions in the chat. We will not be using the raise your hand feature in this webinar. This webinar has not been endorsed by and is developed independently of the IB. Everything that we do here, like I said, is a community effort to share best practices and learnings with each other. And we thank all of our speakers, especially Liz, for coming in here today and doing this completely pro bono for everybody. So all of the ideas that Liz is going to share, all the resources that Liz is going to share today, she's doing this completely out of our love for education and her willingness to share this with educators. Um, and finally, Liz, if we can go to the next slide. We love to see your learnings on social media. So don't forget to tag Toddle. Don't forget to use the hashtag Toddle Learning Jam. And on the next slide, Liz will also show you her social media handles. So please do connect with all of us as well. And with this, Liz, I hand everything over to you. And I'm here if you need me, just say my name and I'll help you with the chat on questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here today. I absolutely am loving seeing where you're all from. I am a world lover. I love to travel. I love to be all over the world. And you're all from amazing places. I wish I could visit right now. I'm Liz Gallo. I am the CEO of YMaker. I am a former technology and engineering educator. I'm currently based in Brooklyn, New York. And today we're going to talk about the ultimate 6-step STEM project planning. So if you do STEM or maker ed, technology, design, thinking, tell me in the chat. Tell me what kind of teacher you are. What grade, what age level do you teach? What kind of subjects do you teach? And keep telling me where you're from, because I'm just making a list of places and teacher friends I'm going to come visit eventually. But tell me what you teach in the chat too. Beautiful. Science teachers, all subjects, lots of pre-K through 8th grade. I gotta make my chat box bigger. You're going so fast. They call this a waterfall chat. I've learned when it goes so fast. Invention. Yes, my friends in Chile, I hear some really cool things happening with the invention curriculum. I'd love to hear more one day soon. STEAM director at a museum, IB coordinator, PYP. I love it. What a diverse group of people. Music. I love connecting music and hands-on learning. Homeroom teacher, grades 3 and 4. PE, early childhood. Awesome. Okay, so my friends are going to drop in the chat for you a link to the Ultimate Project Planner. And that link, you can click on it and save that document for use to develop projects with your students. So they just dropped the project planner in the chat. You're going to have to copy and paste that into your internet browser so that you can grab that. And I'm on social media. I'm at YMaker. That's the name of the company we run. And we do professional development for teachers. We help schools get started with their maker spaces and their STEM initiatives. Really the focus of everything that I do is to help support teachers. I want teachers to be doing more hands-on designing, creating, making with their students. And that is all the work that we focus on and we do. So, has a kid ever told you that school is boring? Maybe if you have kids of your own, they come home and you go, how was school today? And they go, boring. Or they go, it's fine, right? Yeah, and that's really, really sad. In this great article by Kevin Bushweller, it's called The Kids Are Right, School is Boring. And this was written pre-pandemic with this idea that the best learning for kids happens outside of their school day. And school is just something that they go and they do. You know, they're at home, they're baking, they're creating, they're playing, they're doing all of these things at home and not getting those amazing, rich community learning experiences in school. And just like Aisha said, everything was boring except for design. You're so right. Technology, design, STEM, maker classes are the most fun. And that's what we're here to just enforce and make sure that that's happening across the world. So once the pandemic started, we were getting headlines that said things like remote learning's not working, online schooling is failing to reach tons of kids, our students are staying logged out. And if you're a remote teacher, you might be seeing classes where students are turning off their cameras because they don't want to engage. Students aren't responding. They're not showing up. They're disengaged. They're not doing their work. All of that is the same school is boring, but it's now more boring because I don't have to be around my friends. So we have to really be amazing educators and think about how we're going to engage our students and inspire them to have the best learning experiences possible. So I want to know from you, what are your successes with student engagement and student learning? What does work? What is working now, virtually or in person? Or what was working? What is happening? So drop some things in the chat. What are your successes with engaging students and student learning?
Like we see connection, empathy, creating new artifacts, asking students for input. What are they interested in learning? Problem-based learning, setting challenges, again, giving students a lot of agency, engaging experiences, challenging students, passion.
Yeah, so great. Love these answers. So engaging students, building connections, showing them how it's relevant, gamifying it, singing, listening to them, caring about them. Incubator, webcam, chicken watch. I love that. That's adorable. Showing my cats. Animation, building relationships with students. There's a lot of things about student choice, right? And having students choose what they want. I have a really great friend who talks about, student agency as this idea of, well, we give students choices about what they want to do. But in order to give students choice, we have to understand what our students like. So we have to understand who our students are in order to give them a choice that they like to work on. So that whole relationship piece, building relationships, understanding who your students are as people, understanding what excites them, what makes them happy, will help you build choice into your lessons too. That's a whole nother topic. I could talk about that all day long. But now we're talking about project planning. So I'm going to show you some of my friends from around the US and their jobs and what they do. I lied. I'm going to tell you that hands-on learning is what is keeping kids super engaged and super excited, especially during remote learning. Kids are showing up to hands-on learning sessions at 85 to 100% compared to non-hands-on learning classes where they're showing up to 30 to 40%. So getting kids to do and to create and make, which we're going to do in a little bit, will really excite kids and get them engaged into the learning, even when we do really simple things. So my friends that I was talking about. So right here in the middle, this is my friend Ellen. She is a video game designer for the app Dots. This is my friend Joe. He repairs servers. So they take servers from for-profit companies, refurbish them for nonprofit companies to give them back. My friend Frank over here on the right, he designs greeting cards for LGBTQ communities, people who are underrepresented in greeting cards. And my friend Emma, who is a oil rig operations manager. So she works on an oil rig and she manages her rig family. So these are like 3 STEM inspiring design classes that are design jobs, and they're my friends. And I was asking them, like, why do you love your job so much? And thinking about all my friends that love their job. What are they doing all day long that they love their job? And what they're telling me is they love their job because they're passionate about the field. Emma studied petroleum engineering in school. Nothing I'd be interested in studying, but she loves understanding how we get petroleum out of our earth. And she's very passionate about that subject matter. They're solving a valuable problem. My friend Frank is solving a valuable problem. LGBTQ people were underrepresented in greeting cards, and he's solving a valuable problem for them. They have new and novel ownership. Every time my friend Joe gets a server, it's a new type of server that he has to figure out how to fix it in order to make it operational for a company in need. They all work with a team, every single one of them. Emma talks about her rig family and taking care of her oil rig family. And mastery, they work hard to figure it out. Joe's servers have to be 100% working, right? Ellen's games have to be 100% working when they go to the App Store. No one likes bugs or anything. They create the best possible solution and they share it. Frank loves releasing new cards into production because he knows that it's making a difference, and he loves sharing that with people. When companies get their new servers, they're so grateful and they love sharing. So they love their jobs because of these things. So it makes me think, how might we change school so that students are not bored and engaged in their learning? And that's my main question and my main thing to focus on. How might we change school so that students are not bored and engaged in their learning? That's the main question. If you have any thoughts, you're welcome to put it in the chat. While you're thinking about some answers, grab a sheet of paper because we're going to do a hands-on activity next. Any size sheet of paper, any color, any thickness, sheet of paper. Agency, give them agency on what to learn. Have them vote. Ooh, I like that. Voice and building connections. I love it. Yeah, so giving kids something to do. I'm all about getting kids something to do. Have them take ownership of their work. Have them feel proud of something they're creating or doing. Yeah. Right. And Kathy, our younger class, our younger age children, our younger learners are super engaged because those teachers are making it super engaging, constantly providing new things to play with, new things to think about, curiosity-based questions. This amazing, wow, this is your world, understand it. What can you do to understand it? Very good. Yeah. Yes, Jennifer, why they left their job fits with the PBL and design cycles as described in other sessions. You're 100% right, and that's where we're going. Nice work, Jennifer, for making that connection. Students create questions, hands-on activities, project biz, PK Kids, time to play, create, share. Beautiful. Okay, so I need everyone, if you have a sheet of paper, we are going to get engaged and we are going to make a zine, like a magazine. It could be a zine or a zine, depending on how you want to say it. But all you need is one sheet of paper, and this simple one sheet of paper and a scissor. If you have a scissor close by, that's helpful. But this one sheet of paper is going to show you so many ways that you can start engaging kids and have them take ownership of their learning. So I'm going to show you how to make a zine. You can make it along with me. And if you make one, take a picture and show me on social media because I can't see you here. I wish I could. Show me on social media your zine that you make and follow along. Ready? Okay. So take a sheet of paper. You're going to fold it in half, short edge to short edge. Beautiful. Nice and tight. Crispy creases, crispy creases, crispy creases. And then you're going to fold your zine in half again. Short edge to short edge. Yes, Miss Heatherly, hamburger folds. However, not all of our children in the world eat hamburgers or hot dogs. So we switch it to short edge, long edge to long edge. And then folds it in half again. And ultimately, you're going to wind up with 8 squares when you open this up. Okay. So when I open up my piece of paper, I have 8 boxes. Perfect. Then I'm going to refold it short edge to short edge. And I'm going to take my scissor if I have it, or I can just rip, but I'm going to cut right in that middle fold, right into the middle. And I'm just going to cut halfway through into the fold. So it's like in the middle of my paper. See, I cut into my fold. And when I open it up, I have this mouth in the middle of it. All right. This is the part that kids mess up on, and it's totally fine. Once they make the mistake once, they'll never make the mistake again. You could do this with kids as little as 6 years old. All the way, I do this with my college students and clearly with adults too. So you could do this with everybody. So once you have the mouth in the middle, you're gonna fold long edge to long edge. And you're gonna have this in the middle. And all you do from here is you squish it together and fold it into a book. And now I have a book. My book has 8 pages. I'll show you how to do that again. So I fold it, my mouth, I fold it in half, long edge to long edge, and then I squish it together and fold it all together and make a book. You really can't mess up that stage. Okay, then I have 8 pages. And I can literally do whatever I want with this book. The coolest part about a zine is that if you write on all 8 of these pages and then you unfold your book, all of your writing is on one side of the page. So you could take a photo of it, you can make a copy of it so that other kids can use it. All your writing is on one side of the page, which is awesome. Makes it great for learning and sharing. So once you have the zine, what are some ways your students can use a book like this? What are some ways your students could use a book like this, no matter what you're teaching? What are some ideas? Drop them in the chat. Reflection, vocabulary, beautiful. Taking notes of a project, a sketchbook, design sketches, brainstorms too. You could put brainstorms in here. A journal, their own stories, concepts, the design process steps. Yes, I love that. Recording plant growth by drawing pictures, essay planning, doodling, sequence of events and instructions, comments. You could do a math problem, 1 step on each page. Note taking, could do like a visual vocabulary. Yes, you can. I love that. Pratima, I hope I said that correctly. You could have each kid make their own story and then make it a class library. I love that idea. And you can make so many. You could talk about events. Beautiful. Also, just so you know, if you get a bigger sheet of paper, you can fold it more times and make more pages. There's so many wonderful things out there on the internet about zines and how people do amazing things with them. So there's such a great little helpful tool in your back pocket that your students can do and can use and can create. Ooh, flip books. That could be fun. Yeah, you could write this way too and go backwards, forwards, whatever that means to you. I love it. This is really great. Another type of book that I love is pop-up books. Pop-up books are so easy to make too. You just take a sheet of paper and you cut two slits into the middle, same size, like a number 11, right? 1, 1. And then you just push that out in the middle, glue something to it, and you have a pop-up book. Super easy to make a great little card. And then you can glue a ton of these together. So I have the life cycle of a frog. is what I was thinking. And you can flip through and see the frog egg and the tadpole, and watch as the tadpole gets bigger, right? And bigger. And then it becomes a frog. Could talk about foregrounds and backgrounds. Pop-up books are such another easy way to get kids engaged when they don't have tons of stuff at home and we don't have the 3D printer, right? So simple, so easy, can be really powerful for kids. So pop-up books, zines, super easy, hands-on way to get kids engaged. I love it. All right. So that link that was dropped in the chat, the ultimate STEM project planner. It is a one-page planner with 6 different boxes for us to fill out information. And as we fill out that information, we create an awesome project. It helps us think as teachers. It helps us think about all the important things we need to do to make a successful STEM or Maker Ed hands-on project. So my friends, drop the link in the chat again. You can grab that. I'm going to go through each step so you can follow along with me, and we'll see it. Okay, so the first thing we do, and this also connects, like someone said earlier, to my friends and their jobs. One of the things that they said was they were passionate about the content they were learning about. So the first box is context and curriculum. This is where we put in the passion-specific content. Now, kids don't know what they're passionate about. So as teachers, it's our job to expose them to the world as we know it, and we teach them about everything. And that's kind of the idea behind our education system, is that we teach them so they can find their passion, they can find what they're interested in. So as a teacher, as you're planning for your hands-on project, the first thing I want you to think about is, what exactly is the content that you are teaching and how are you teaching it? So I did a project where, similar to my frog book actually, where kids had to tell the story of a life cycle of an animal. And they had to tell this story through a hands-on Arduino coding platform, where they would like code on the computer, add little motors and lights, and tell the story of life cycles. The reason I picked life cycles was because I knew that my 6th grade students in their science class were learning about life cycles. They were learning about how a chicken goes from an egg to a baby chick to a chicken to lay another egg, right? Or the frog goes from an egg to a tadpole to a frog, or a butterfly goes from a larvae to a pupa to a caterpillar to, I think I got that wrong, chrysalis, butterfly, that whole thing, right? So I knew my 6th grade students were learning about life cycles in science class. And I knew that in technology class, we had to do this coding and, add all these components. So I was like, what a great opportunity to connect what my students are learning in science with the technology. My students were learning these things, learning about the life cycles in science. So I knew my content was being taught in science class. And I also knew that they had books that they can look at. They can go to the library to get books. We could do research on the internet, because clearly, like I just showed you, I don't know everything about life cycles, and that's okay. So I knew that they were learning that in science, and we could learn that elsewhere. But I still had to teach them the coding and the lights and the motor and the Arduino. So I had to teach them those skills before they could think about what they were creating and making and building. So my first step here was I was teaching them the Arduino and the lights and the coding. And I was teaching them through skills and practice activities, right? So that was my responsibility to teach them. I love all the ideas coming through the chat. Awesome. So the second step in planning a great project is connecting it to a real world problem. So many of you said that you love this idea of connecting things kids are learning to the real world. And that's so important. Our schools should not be disconnected from the real world. Schools should directly connect to what kids are learning or what kids are experiencing in the world. What they're learning should connect to the real world. It shouldn't be a disconnect. The best learning should not happen outside of the school day. The best learning should happen within the school day. If you ever were to go to interview for a job at Google and you got the job, they would enroll you in a class called Googliness. And it helps you become a Googler, right? A good Google person, employee. And the first thing they tell you in that course is forget everything you learned in school. And my heart breaks. We put these kids through 13 plus years of school. And now the best company in the world is telling them to forget everything they learned. Tells me we're not doing something right. So we really need to be connecting the things kids are learning to the real world. So this investigation and inquiry, the design challenge that you give kids, which I know so many of you use, the design challenge you give kids, the problem statement, make sure that that is connected to a real life experience, whether that's another person, another group of people, an animal, an environmental cause. Make sure it's something real. So if you don't have one, make it up, but make sure it's connected, or let the kids make it up. Another great thing is the specifications and constraints. These are, as a teacher, my two lifesavers. Specifications are things that students must have, or things the design must have. So things like, kids, you must read this book. It must have this feature. It must be able to do this. Whatever the design must have, where constraints are things that limit your design. So it limits the amount of users, the amount of materials, the size, the budget, the time. So let's say you're designing something for an elderly person. Now your constraint is an elderly person. You're not designing your thing for babies, you're designing it for elderly people, right? So the constraint, yes, this reflects the design cycle. Yes, this is the design cycle. So the constraint is what limits the design. So make sure you put those in. And as a teacher, using the specifications and constraints will stop projects from being out of your control, right? It brings it down into things you can control as a teacher. You know, it's amazing if we had like all the ability to manage 1 million different projects using 1 million different tools and machines and materials, but we can't, right? Sometimes we just need to bring it in a little bit to what I do have control of as an educator. So your specifications and constraints will help you do that. If you don't have an unlimited amount of paper, each kid only gets 5 sheets of paper, and that's your limitation. And kids have to work within that, because that's also how the real world works too. We have a budget, we have the materials, we have the time, we have the users. There are limits and constraints. And that's what helps breed creativity. So use those to your advantage. All right. And then the third thing that my friends told me they loved about their job was every time they're mastering something that's new and novel. So we're introducing to kids a new tool, a new technology, a new material for a project, a new method. And kids eat this up. They want to learn new stuff and they want to be good at that stuff. So as teachers, we need to be asking ourselves, how are students going to learn the new stuff? And how are they going to show mastery? How are they going to show they mastered it? With the 3D printing projects we do, before I let them 3D print a house, we do little ones. We design it. We peer check. We check the specifications as it's going into the print cycle, right? There's a practicing phase before we go to the big event. And that's totally normal and acceptable. And it's how you save yourself too, right? So we don't waste all the materials and the time creating this elaborate thing that doesn't work. So make sure we are adding new hands-on stuff all the time for kids to work on and learn, and giving them opportunities to show mastery. So some of our favorite new technologies now that we absolutely love working with. Our first one is Edison robots. And if you've never seen these adorable Edison robots, they don't look like much, but they are so powerful. They're incredibly affordable. No matter where you are in the world, these are so affordable, so much more affordable than any other type of robot that's out there. You can add on to it with Legos, or you can 3D print add-ons. You can take the wheels off and access the motors that way. Comes with a huge curriculum for you to use, comes with design challenges. They have monthly challenges for teachers and students. They're really, really great. I love them. And that you can code them in blocks or Python or Scratch. So if you're super into robots, this is a great way to go. Great for little ones, our first graders could use these all the way through high school. And they work with any device that you have that has the internet. So check these out. My other favorite tool right now is 3Ducks Designs. So 3Ducks are these plastic connectors and cardboard pieces. And the plastic connectors come in all different shapes and sizes, and the cardboard comes in all different shapes and sizes. They have a great global futures project on their website where kids from all over the world are designing and building solutions, global solutions that connect with the UN sustainability goals and typical things that our neighborhoods are experiencing. This is my document camera. I put my phone up here and I project down on my document cam so that you could see what I'm doing below it if you ever needed one. So I love 3Ducks. They're great too. Another great tool is the engineering with paper, where it teaches you how to create all sorts of different things out of paper. So check those out. Those are my absolute favorites. Next step in building a great project is how are students going to brainstorm their solution? So back to that engineering design process. When kids are brainstorming, it's my absolute favorite day because they come up with the craziest ideas. It's all fun and games, and there's no limits. You can have aliens and monsters and space invaders, and it's perfect. Kids need to choose one project and solution to work on. So how are you going to ensure that kids only choose one and they choose a good one? And how are students going to design their solution? So are they going to plan it? Are they going to draw it? Are they going to make a simple model? What details do they have to add? And as a teacher, you need to stop your students here and check their designs, because you want to make sure that their designs are working well and going to work well before they get too far down the process and it doesn't work. So as a teacher, you're going to stop and check in with kids after they've designed their final solution. So all things to think about. The fifth step in the building a great project is the building and testing it. So how are students going to build and test their solution? How are they going to access materials? If kids are in person with you, accessing materials may be like, where are the scissors located? Where is the glue? And just letting them know where that stuff is and how they should clean it up when they're done and how they should use it safely. If kids are virtual, it's figuring out either what materials you can get to them or what materials they have access to, or how your specifications and constraints can be flexible enough to use whatever materials you have at home. So I have a lot of ideas there. So if you're ever stuck with how do I get virtual kids to create, send me a message and we can talk about the situation, and then I can come up with ideas with you because we've seen a lot the past couple of months. So how are students going to build their solution? What in your mind would a final solution look like? And how are they going to test their solution? So how are they going to know if their solution is good, if it should be improved? How are they going to test it? And what happens if our students need to redesign? What happens if they need to fix something? What's going to happen then? And then as a teacher, this is the hardest one. I would have a hard stop deadline. We're done building on this day. We need to move on. We have other things we need to do, because kids will build and redesign and build and redesign and build and redesign forever. And they'll always do but please, Miss Gallo, we just need one more day. Please, please. And then you feel like suckered into it. So make sure ahead of time you tell kids the last day of this project is, so they know that they have to be done by them. So make sure you do that. And if you're virtual, have multiple check-in points with students. Telling kids to go design something and show me when it's done isn't helpful to them because there's a million things that could go wrong between now and when it's done. So having those multiple check-ins with kids throughout is super important. You do them in the classroom, you need to do them remotely too. Okay. And the last step is to present to a real audience. This takes us back to step 2, and this connects to like project-based learning, where we want to present our real problem to a real audience, whether we're putting it on display, we're giving it away, we're having a virtual video conference. We want students to be presenting to a real audience. And this makes it relevant to students, like you all said. So even if it's 1 or 2 or 3 people, make it real. Make it authentic for them. So I see lots of stuff flying past us in the chat. Yeah, so Chris is talking about that hard stop deadline. As a teacher, week like 3 of the same project, I'm like, I'm done with this. I need a break. But encouraging them to continue to try until then, or take it home and continue to try, is really important and really helpful too. If they're into it, we don't want to squander that. But if we're just dragging on and not making progress anymore, then it's important. Cool, an after school club where they can continue. Yeah, you said lots of cool stuff up here. Beautiful. Just scrolling back through the chat. Awesome. All right. So another big question that a lot of teachers have is assessment. How do you assess hands-on STEM maker ed projects? How do you do that? And what I do is I assess for character strengths. So there's an incredible organization called the VIA. It's a VIA test, VIA test or survey. And it's free survey that there's one for adults and one for kids. And you take it and you learn what your greatest character strength is. So personally, I'm incredibly curious. I'm a lifelong learner, and I have a zest for life. Those 3 things are my greatest character strengths. They're what I'm strongest at. They're how I approach the world. I still have perspective. I'm still very brave. I still have an appreciation of beauty, right? I can self-regulate. But I approach the world with this lens of curiosity and love of learning and the zest for life. So everyone has all 24 of the character strengths. Just some of them are more prominent than others. So you can assess kids on their character strengths. So what I do is I create rubrics based on them. So curiosity would be a place in my rubric that I would assess students. How curious were you? Were you super curious and kept engaging and kept discovering and came up with a really good question you want to solve? Or were you like, that's okay? I assess on social intelligence or empathy. How well did you work with your teammates? Did you have good communication? Did you put yourself in someone else's shoes? Your judgment and reflection. How well did you reflect on your product that you built? Did you test it a lot? Did you redesign a lot? Did you really think about how your users were going to use it? How prudent were you with the process? Did you follow each step in order, or were you all over the place and just skipping steps, not filling stuff out? What did you do there? What perspective did you take? What values did you have? How did you identify them? What's important to you? And how brave were you in your prototype? Did you take a risk, or did you take the easy route? Right? And that's bravery. Did I take a risk? Or did I just do the easy route, do what everyone else did and what I found the first thing on Google? And when we assess kids like this, I can get you a copy of this rubric. When you assess kids like this, it really makes them think about the process. And it's not the product. Not a single one of these says, how perfect is your design? How neat is it? How excellent does it work? It's all about that process. Yeah, IB learner profiles, totally. So you could, Chris, I've never allowed students to develop these rubrics with me, but you could ask them, what's important when you're doing schoolwork? How do you know you're being successful? How do you show that you've learned more? How can I see that? So just having an open, honest conversation with them. Okay. So like we've said a bunch of times, I'm all about using this design process. It's the only way I've ever taught. And really falling back on a design process right now during uncertain times will cover you through changing situations. So if my students understand how to go through this process, then they know what to expect, whether they're in person or at home. They know what to expect. So thinking about using that design process as the baseline for changing times. Make it be your default teaching style. So I have a great course on our website that teaches you how to go through this project planner in so much more detail and gets you practice with hands-on learning. So go to the website, find the online course. I have a 15% off coupon code in there for you because I love you all so much. So grab the course, add it to your cart, add the coupon code 15 off. You'll get 15% off the course and you'll be able to practice at your own pace with this project planner, with the projects you're thinking about doing for your students. The code should work. It's OFF, all capital letters. So I can fix that, and that's all. You're awesome. I'm going to pull the rubric because I do think that's important, and I'll drop it in the chat. But do we have any questions?
Yes, Liz, we do have a few. The first question I think is connected to something that you've already spoken about in terms of co-creating assessment or the rubric and evaluation with students. But Chris also wondered about getting students to be a part of deciding what tools can be used, and how do you get them to be a part of the entire process, decision making aspect.
Right. So talking to them, asking them, I think first you have to think about yourself. Like, what do you want your students to show and do, and why are they here learning, and why am I assessing them? And then ask them how they can show you that they learn and they grew through that process, and then creating rubrics based on literally what they said.
Absolutely. We also have, I saw a few questions. There's one in this Q&A box as well, but people were wondering how we can modify this design thinking process to suit younger age groups, early years, really young learners. Do you recommend going through the entire process, or is there a modified version that you would recommend, certain steps that can be skipped over?
So, I think what happens with our littles is that they don't have a million ideas. They don't entirely understand this idea of brainstorming, where I come up with so many ideas and then I choose the best one. I think a lot of times with our littles, we see, I have an idea, I'm going to go build it. So I think with them, it'd be a less of an emphasis on the brainstorming and the details and the planning, more of an emphasis on, why do you think that? How is that going to work? What's going to happen? How would you try that out? And that curiosity, thinking about their thinking, having them reflect on their idea is more important than having them come up with so many ideas. So as a kid, as a littles, I would really focus on like building the curiosity, and then asking for, why do you like that idea? How is that idea going to go? And then let them build and create and go wild.
Absolutely. And yes, Aisha says that younger kids definitely need a lot more scaffolding. Yes, Aisha agreed. So, Liz, there was another question that we had, which was more towards getting, as teachers, feeling prepared to answer all of the student questions or even give them feedback on their designs at different stages, especially in the virtual learning context. So do you have any tips, any strategies for us to feel like we are in a place, because this is something that we might be doing for the first time as well?
What's the question particularly?
So in terms of us as educators to be in a place to answer all the student questions or look at their, you said, give time to, brainstorm and kind of give them feedback at different stages. So do you have any strategies that educators can use to feel more empowered to do that?
Yeah, so that's a hard question. Know that you can do it. Know that your kids want to talk to you. They want to hear from you. They want ideas and your support and your encouragement as you go on. Yeah, be honest with them. It's okay not to know. It's okay to ask them what they think, what would work best for them, what is working, what is not working. It's okay also to go outside of yourself as an adult. We all know lots of people who could be really helpful in our adult personal lives or professional lives that could help us with our kids, who would be more than willing. Like, people love helping teachers. They're like, oh yeah, come to your class and talk. But even just asking technical questions or for support from other people and building a great team is really, really helpful for you as an educator to help our kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with you 100%, Liz. All right. I think we have about 5 minutes before the next session starts. It is on breaking stress and focusing on your own well-being. This is going to be a wonderful Zoom meeting. So I would recommend that all of you go ahead and attend that one for sure. We all need to take care of ourselves. Liz, thank you so much for coming on here, making time, answering all of our questions, sharing such a wonderful resource with all of us. This has been wonderful. I could see a lot of interaction happening on chat. It was just a buzz with ideas and strategies and connections that people were making. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. Thank you everyone for being here today, whatever time it is, wherever around the world it is. Connect with me on social media, and I'm looking forward to continuing to see you and chat with you and engage.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. And I hope that you continue to show your love and continue to learn a lot today. Do not miss all the upcoming sessions. You will definitely have a lot more in your teacher toolkit by the end of the day. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you once again, Liz.
Thank you.